Hello, welcome to Contest Style Rhythm Guitar. I'm Daniel Carwile. I'm a champion fiddler. Been playing almost 25 years now, and I play many different instruments, and rhythm guitar happens to be one of them. And I love playing rhythm guitar. My brother actually plays rhythm guitar, and he played with me for years. We would travel across the country playing fiddle contests and festivals and stuff, and ran into a lot of great players. And after playing fiddle for 2 or 3 years, I just decided to try the guitar, and I learned a lot just by watching my brother and watching other great players play. And one particular style that I was quite fond of was the contest style rhythm playing. It was quite involved, and it had a lot of passing chords and reminded me a lot of jazz playing. And so it's very sophisticated harmonically, and that appealed to me, because I grew up in Alabama in the southeast around a lot of old-timers and bluegrass players, and I liked that style and appreciated what they were doing, but it was not quite as sophisticated harmonically, and the bass lines were not moving as much. So the whole bass line passing chord thing really appealed to me, and apparently it appeals to you, or you would not have purchased this video. So I hope you learned some new things today. If you're new to this, just looking for some new progressions, I think you'll find some of these to be interesting and different. Like I tell fiddle students, I want you to try to respect tradition, but yet do your own thing to the tune. In this case, as a guitarist, respect the traditional bass lines that you hear at lots of fiddle contests, and then feel secure and safe enough to go out there and venture into new territory in terms of your bass lines and where you want to go with it. But wherever you go with your bass lines, make sure you respect the skeletal progression, or your skeletal harmony, and also respect the melody that the fiddle player is playing. You do not want to play a chord in the name of coming up with a cool bass line if that chord does not fit the melody. It's not exactly cool at that point. As far as I'm concerned, it's quite foolish. So you want to come up with cool bass lines, yes, that are interesting, that are unique, that are groovy, because you are ultimately, as a rhythm player, you're creating a palette or a groove for the fiddle player to sort of ride over, if you will. And your groove, the groove that you set up, is extremely important. It's common for a lot of guitar players when they're new to this style to get a little antsy or to get a little hyper. Their adrenaline kicks in, and they start getting aggressive, and they start rushing if they're not careful. You know, a lot of guitarists, they'll start playing really loud and they start rushing. Try not to do that. I would encourage you to play along with as many recordings as you can get your hands on. Also practice with a metronome, because to me, your timing, having steady time, is the most important thing you do. I had a fiddling friend of mine in Texas once. He told me, he said he would rather have a guitarist that has a strong right hand. He would prefer a stronger right hand over a sophisticated left hand. Okay, so your chord vocabulary, if you will, with your left hand, though it's important, I think it's secondary to your right hand, and the right hand keeps your steady time. So practice with recordings, practice with a metronome, and listen to as many players as you possibly can. Go to as many fiddle contests as you possibly can to watch other great players play. You'll find players you do not like what they're doing. You'll find others that you do like what they're doing. And I would encourage you to video them and tape them and go back to the house and study what they're doing. And over the course of time, you'll start developing your own lines, and you'll start seeing, hey, I can substitute this chord here in this progression, and hey, I use this in this progression, I can use this one in this progression. You know, and that's the fun, that's the joy of it to me. And in a big way, in a big sense, you're really improvising with your bass lines. When I'm playing, I'm not like going, hey, I've got 3 different G's that I'm going to play in a row, and I'm just going to cycle them over and over. Though that is a place to start, and that is how I started, honestly, over 20 years ago. I would learn a couple of different patterns, and I would just cycle them over and over and over. But over the course of time, I continued to increase my vocabulary, if you will, and I began to develop lots of patterns. And as the patterns developed, then I stopped really thinking, well, I got to do this here and this here. And I just kept my mind wide open when I was playing, and I tried to be sensitive to the fiddle player when the fiddle player was playing. So I would encourage you to do that. But what I'm going to do today for you is I'm going to give you 3 progressions. Let me back up. I'm going to give you 3 variations. Yes, they are progressions, but they're variations on what I call just a stock progression. Okay? I'm going to give you a stock G progression with 3 contest style variations on it, and I'm also going to give you the same thing in the key of A and the key of D. I think the keys of G, A, and D are the 3 most common keys that you encounter when you're playing with fiddlers. There are other keys. Actually, there are 12 keys you should be able to play in. All 12 major keys, I would encourage you to be able to play in those. In reality, you're only going to have to deal with G, with A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. So how many is that? That's 7 keys. You should be quite fluid in with those 7 keys. In those 7 keys, I would encourage you, as you practice at the house, to come up with at least 3 or 4, if not 5 different variations or ways of playing what I'm calling the stock progression in those 7 keys. Okay? But for now, let's just deal with G and A and G, A, and D. Alright? So let me explain to you what this stock progression is exactly. Stock progression is what is this, if you analyze it. It's a 1 chord going to a 4 chord, back to a 1, then to a 5 chord, back to 1, then 4, then a 5, and then a quick 5-1, which is what we call a split bar. So in the key of G, you would have G, your 4 chord C, back to G, which is 1, your D would be your 5 chord, back to G, which is 1, C is your 4 chord, then D is your 5, and then 5, 1. So that would be, in an old time or bluegrass tradition, this is what I'm calling your stock or your skeletal chord progression. Lots of times in old time and bluegrass you'll find that people will use runs. That kind of thing. It can get too busy though. Mostly in old time and bluegrass you'll find that they play open chords, ringing chords, okay? And they'll also use a capo. Lots of times in contest style, or I should say most often you do not use a capo. However, I have seen players use a capo in keys like B flat. And if you feel like you need a capo, you can certainly use one. I don't really frown on the use of a capo, but I would encourage you to not feel like the capo is a crutch. Just think of it as a color. There are certain voicings, certain textures, certain sounds that you cannot achieve without the capo. So in that sense, the capo is a good thing, but I don't really think of it as a crutch. A lot of pickers, they learn they learn a stock G, C, an A, and a D progression, and then with the use of the capo, they can play in all 12 keys. And that may be new information to you. If it is, I would encourage you to explore that avenue. But if not, well, not really. If not, I would be able to use the capo in old time and bluegrass, but in contest style, I would refrain from using the capo, with the exception of occasionally in B flat. And the only reason I would use it then would be if you have 2 guitar players playing or accompanying a fiddle player. One player could use a capo and the other player could use or not use a capo, and that would work nicely together. As a matter of fact, the voicing would sound slightly different. So it's really your call. If you just hate playing in B flat, use a capo, okay?